Testing audio for YouTube live stream.
Okay, we can get, oh. Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Hayward City Council meeting for on Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Our first meeting is the concurrent meeting of the Geological Hazard Abatement District, also referred to as GAD. In addition to being city council members, we're also GAD board members. Ladies and gentlemen, you're GAD board members. Thank you. We don't get, GAD board members don't get that kind of love around the Bay Area. Thank you, though. So GAD board / city council / Hayward Housing Authority. So tonight, right now, we have 3 hats on. So with that said, I'd like to call this meeting to order and like to call upon Mayor Pro Tem Andrews to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand if you're able to.
Thank you. And Madam City Clerk, if you can do roll call.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Councilmember Andrews.
Present.
In member and GAD member. My apologies.
And
Andrews.
present.
Yes. Member Bonilla Jr.
Present.
Member Goldstein.
Present.
Member Roach.
Present.
Member Syrup.
Present.
Member Cermeño. Mayor and Chair Salinas.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to go to public comments. And I do see one card here with me. And then I'll see if we have anybody online. I don't see anybody online. So I will go to the card and this is only for public comment for the GAD. And our public comment comes to us by Brian. Is it Base or Beck? Baca. I apologize. Yeah, come on up and then and just yep. Red means go. So you can go ahead.
Okay. Well, good evening. How you guys doing? I have 2 comments today. The first one is about GAD, unexpectedly. However, I do live on Tennyson and Winsham, and I make a right-hand turn every morning. So my concern there is a safety-related issue. The light that was put on La Vista between Tennyson and La Vista, well, the La Vista light, the timing I'm asking to be looked at and adjusted because the light turns red, and in the morning when I take my kids to school, there's so much traffic I cannot even, to avoid the traffic, I have to go straight to Tennyson and around up Tennyson, the new development to beat the traffic. But I can't because there is cars, there's no way to get around because the cars are just stopped all through the Tennyson, through the whole intersection. So I feel that is a major safety concern. And that's my only, all I have on this topic. Thank you. I'll speak to you shortly.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'd like to close public comment and move on to our consent calendar.
I'll move the item.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Andrews, seconded by Councilmember Goldstein and Madam City Clerk. And I don't see any public comment on this. So Madam City Clerk, if you can call the roll. Oh,
Actually, Chair Salinas, this is your GAD Board Council.
yes.
And I apologize for my absence. In my 30 years of being legal counsel to various public agencies, I've never gotten stuck in traffic and been unable to make it to a meeting. So forgive my my absence there, but I am prepared to take roll call. There is a motion by let's see, Board Member Andrews and second by Goldstein. So I'll call the roll call now. Board Member Andrews.
Aye.
Andrews, yes. Board Member Bonilla.
Yes.
Bonilla, yes. Board Member Roach?
Yes.
Roach, yes. Board Member Goldstein?
Goldstein votes yes.
Thank you. Board Member Sirop?
Yes.
Sirop, yes. And Board Member Zermania?
Kate.
Zermania, yes. And Chair Salinas?
Yes.
Salinas, yes. And that motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a public hearing, and the public hearing is on the public hearing to approve transfer of plan of control responsibilities for assessors, parcel number APN 083-0477-003, parcel B, track 7620 in the reserve development from La Vista LP to the Hayward Geologic Hazard Abatement District, also known as a GAD, and authorizing the GAD manager to accept title to certain real property. And we're going to turn to the GAD manager, Ms. Ralston.
Thank you, Chair Salinas. Good evening, board members, chair and board members. I am Haley Ralston with NGO Incorporated, who serves as the GAD manager for the Hayward GAD. And tonight before the board is Resolution 2304, approving transfer of plan of control responsibilities and accepting fee title for parcel B within the reserve development of the Hayward GAD. The Board of Directors approved a plan of control for the reserve development that outlined a process for the developer to transfer long-term monitoring and maintenance responsibilities to the GAD when specified conditions had been met. GAD staff has verified that parcel B is eligible for ownership transfer and acceptance of plan of control responsibilities. The GAD's responsibilities within parcel B are similar to the other GAD-owned and accepted open space parcels within the reserve development and include open space monitoring for geologic hazard, preventative maintenance, and landowner duties. To initiate the transfer process for the reserve development, the developer, La Vista LP, submitted a transfer application for all parcels within the reserve development in March 2018. The GAD previously accepted other open space and residential parcels within the reserve development on February 25th, 2020, with the adoption of Resolution 20-1. The GAD provided the developer with a punch list letter dated February 1, 2021, included in tonight's staff report, summarizing the conditions of acceptance of the future GAD-owned and maintained parcel B. The developer notified the GAD that it had addressed items identified in the punch list letter, and the GAD manager re-inspected the GAD maintained improvements on parcel B and found parcel B in satisfactory condition to transfer to the GAD. The remaining parcels that are not yet eligible to transfer to the GAD are parcels A and P, which do not have GAD maintained improvements constructed yet. These parcels, which include the park and an access roadway, will be brought back to the board at a later date for transfer consideration. Lastly, benefit zone number 14 of landscape lighting district number 96-1 included parcel B for maintenance and operations of irrigation and landscape adjacent to Tennyson Road. Included in the staff report is a right of entry agreement with the City of Hayward to allow the landscape and lighting district work to be performed on GAD property. The board previously approved an earlier version of this right of entry agreement on March 17th, 2020, with the approval of Resolution 2004. However, the agreement was not recorded then. Therefore, it has been updated now to include parcel B with the board's acceptance of this parcel if they choose. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you, Ms. Ralston. First, like to open up for questions from council. I don't see any questions from council, so I'll move to public comment. And I don't see any public comment. I don't see any public comment online. So I like to close public comment, return to council for any questions or motion.
Mayor, I so move this item.
Moved by Councilmember Bonilla,
Second.
second by Councilmember Roach. And Madam City Clerk, if you can take the roll. Or I'm sorry, Ms. Morrison, yes.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, so this is a motion to approve resolution number 2304. And let's see, Board Member Andrews,
Aye.
Andrews, yes. Board Member Bonilla.
Yes.
Bonilla, yes. Board Member Roach.
Aye.
Roach, yes. Goldstein.
Goldstein votes
I'm
yes.
so sorry. Goldstein, yes. Board Member Cyrop.
Yes.
Board Member Cyrop, yes. And Board Member Zermano.
Yes.
Zermano, yes. And Chair Salinas.
Yes.
Salinas, yes. And the motion carries.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Morrison. And I believe, does the, Ms. Ralston have so now move on to GAD manager's report. And Ms. Ralston, do you have a report?
Yes, I can provide a brief update
Absolutely.
of the GAD's activities recently. Over the summer, or late summer, early fall, we did provide some minor repair to a maintenance road along the open space slope within the GAD, and that has gone well. So we will monitor it over the upcoming winter. We have also are working or have almost completed our fall maintenance items, such as cleaning out detention basins and concrete line drainage ditches for adequate capacity for the upcoming winter. In addition, we have completed our fall monitoring and we'll finalize that report and see if any last minute items need to be addressed prior to rains, but everything overall is looking really good. Additionally, since we last met, I know the board had asked that we send a flyer out to the community, and we did that. And I do have copies here for your guys's for distribution, so I can leave those here for you to pick up. So we feel prepared for this upcoming winter season, and we'll be available to respond when those heavy rains come up, and our contractors are ready as well to respond as needed. And then as far as other items that we'll be looking to bring to the board upcoming, the Hideaway development, which was formerly known as the Erstead property, which neighbors the La Vista development, will be looking to likely transfer within the next 6 months. We're working with them on completing their punch list items in a similar way we just did for the reserve development. And then the Hayward Somi development, which is further down the slope, still has about a couple years before they're eligible to transfer. But in general, all those developments are moving along. And that concludes my manager report.
Thank you. And I just wanted to not leave out the comment or the public comment by Mr. Baca. And I believe that isn't necessarily a GAD issue as much as more of a Hayward traffic issue. So we will certainly take a look at that. And I know the city manager has noted that down. So, okay. So moving on to, thank you for that. Moving on to GAD board member reports, referrals, or future agenda items. And let's see, Councilmember Syra or Board Member Syra.
Thank you, Chair. During the last meeting, I'd requested a brief 5-minute presentation on what GAD is for the public general knowledge. I'm hoping that maybe we can agendize that for the next meeting we have to, just something so people understand what it is that we're doing up here when we approve motions like the one we just approved.
Sure, we'd be happy to.
Thank you.
And along those lines, the GAD has a website, correct?
Correct. The Hayward GAD website is www.haywardgad.org, and items included on there are references to upcoming meetings, monitoring reports, annual budget documents, some maps including the areas the GAD's involved in or responsible for, as well as a contact form for residents to contact the GAD manager directly to address any concerns they may have.
Thank you. And board member Syrup's comments are certainly duly noted. So thank you. Appreciate that. Seeing no more comments, next meeting, there are no future meetings scheduled as of today. And I'd like to wish you, Ms. Ralston, and of course, Ms. Morrison, happy holiday, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Okay. So we close the GAD. Let me make sure. Okay. So thank you for that. And then as we, as the director and the city manager change chairs. I'll give it a moment. Okay. Okay, welcome back. So now we're going to start the special joint city council and Hayward Housing Authority board meeting. And I'd like to ask the city attorney for a closed session report.
Greetings, Mayor. The council did convene in closed session at 5:30 today. With all members present, there were 5 speakers who addressed the council on the closed session item called labor negotiations. And after the public comments were closed, the council discussed 2 matters: anticipated litigation, in which the council discussed the claim related to the Madranos and the Faircliff and Hard storm damage claim. Council authorized global settlement of the claims as among the Madranos, the Hayward Area Recreation District, that's Hard, and the city, the details of which are publicly available in the city attorney's office.
Mr. City Attorney, can you speak into the microphone?
Sorry.
Thank you.
And secondly, the council discussed labor negotiations with all bargaining groups and took no reportable action, and the closed session adjourned at 6:55.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to public comments. This is for people who would like to make a public comment on something that is not on the agenda. And I don't see anybody online, but I do have 2 cards in front of me. Our first public comment is Noel Ramirez. And I believe we have an interpreter also standing by.
Yes, Mayor, that's
Okay.
correct.
That's correct. Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, perfect.
Buenas noches. Les pongo mi caso porque traté de hablar con los de Cost Informe y con la señorita Diana de Housing, en la forma de que me están pidiendo que pague una cantidad de casi $7,000 cuando yo intenté pagarle a la persona.
Un momento, one moment, sorry. Por favor, recuerda que está siendo interpretado, por favor. Si puedes decir y luego pausar para darme oportunidad de interpretar lo que estás diciendo.
Sí, está bien, disculpe, gracias.
Repetir otra vez, por favor. Empezar y tomar pausas.
Okay. Mi nombre es Noel Ramírez. Buenas noches ante todo. Y vengo a exponer mi caso de que me están pidiendo de que pague una cantidad de $7,000.
Hello, my name is Noel Ramirez, and I came to expose my case of why they want me to pay $7,000.
De Housing y por la parte de Cost Informe, cuando por casi 2 años quise resolver este problema que tenía atrasado de sacar a una persona que llegó a vivir a mi garage, y desde el agosto 25 del 21, que fue la señorita Kaylin a la casa a hacer la inspección.
So for over 2 years with the Housing Authority, I was trying to solve a problem about someone who moved into my garage. And on August 21st of 2021, when the inspection happened.
He tenido casi 2 años peleando el caso de que quería hacer la evicción, y entiendo de que estábamos por lo del COVID y no se podían hacer evicciones. Y ahora en enero del 23, que ya se pasó la etapa del COVID, entonces cambiaron, la señorita Kaylin de Cost Enforcement cambió la oración que necesitaba poner en el reporte para que pudieran hacer la evicción. Y no se me hace justo que por casi 2 años estuve batallando y estuve manteniendo a esa persona, estresándome y casi con el punto de perder mi casa mes a mes.
Un momento.
So
for 2 years, I was trying to get this eviction, and I know it was COVID and we couldn't do any evictions. But in January of 2023, that all changed, and Kaylee changed what she had to do to get the eviction done. And I don't think it's fair that I have to pay this money, even though I was basically paying for this person and putting up with this person for so long.
entiendo que desde que recibí la carta en enero del 23, cuando cambiaron la oración que necesitaba desde el departamento de housing para poder hacer la evicción, me pidieron que pagara la cantidad de 1,658. Yo nunca me negué a pagar y estuve dispuesto. La persona que estaba allí no la quiso aceptar y entonces yo vine a hablar con Diana el 12 de enero para que me
Okay,
hiciera
so I
una.
understand. I understand in 2023 when the petition was changed and they asked me to pay $1,658, which I never ever did not want to pay.
He tratado de seguir las reglas a la forma como he podido y he
I've
entendido y
tried following
comprendido.
the rules to the best of my ability that I can and that I have comprehended.
Tal vez estaba en un problema, en un error o cualquier cosa y intenté pagar la cantidad de 1,658. La persona no quiso aceptar el cheque.
Maybe I was making a mistake, but I tried paying the check of $1,658, but the person would not take the money.
Y vine a pedirle a Diana que me pudiera hacer una mediación o un request administration y
And I
nunca
asked
recibí.
Diana to do a mediation or a request for the administration.
Para que ella viera de que estoy intentando pagarle la cantidad de 1,658.
So she could witness the fact that I was trying to pay the amount of $1,658.
Y pasaron 4 meses y ahora la el departamento de housing me está pidiendo que pague $7,000 cuando que yo intenté desde el principio tratar de hacer las cosas bien y
And
hacer
it's
la
the 4
mediación.
months have passed by, and now the housing department is saying that I have to pay $7,000 when I tried doing things right from the beginning.
Y vengo aquí ante ustedes a exponer mi caso y pues más que nada pedir la ayuda porque no sé, es demasiada la cantidad que necesito pagar.
And I came on to you to show you my case because I feel that is a very unfair amount that I'm being asked to pay.
O ustedes recomendarme con alguien, con la persona que pueda entender el caso para que vean cuál es la etapa que he hecho y que desde el agosto 25 del 21 que fue la inspección, no pusieron la frase que necesitaba a housing para poder hacer la evicción.
So in that case, I want to show you guys my case, or if not, you can show me who I can talk to so I can show them the timeline about how on August 25th, 2021, there wasn't that sentence that housing needed to do the eviction.
Muchas gracias.
Okay, I do know that the housing manager is online. She has heard your public comment. And if you can leave your telephone number with our city clerk, she will then give it to our housing manager and you'll get a call from Ms. Morales. Okay, I can't accept any comment right now, but we're going to move on. But please keep in contact with our housing director. Okay.
Interpreter, would you please translate that for Mr.
Si gustas dejar tu número de teléfono, ahorita no puedo aceptar ningún tipo de comentario, pero yo sé que el director del housing está aquí presente y escuchó tu declaración y te llamaremos.
Okay, good. Thank you. Next comment is by Mr. Baca again.
Good evening once again. I had an opportunity about 3.5 weeks ago to meet you, Mr. Slings, in the elevator here at the city. Here in the city. I came at that time to speak with the the Public Works Department on the 2nd floor. My concern is that I live on Tennyson Road. There are 8 houses that most people do not know that are on Tennyson Road. And there's a light or there's an intersection at Pacific and Tennyson, which is right at the corner of my house. You know, that's my intersection. However, I've lost 12 to 15 cars due to accidents, you know, people driving by speeding. Every morning I wake up and I see I can't pull out of my driveway. Not a complaint, but I can't pull out because there's children walking to go to the school that's across adjacent to my house, diagonally to my house. And then about 2 weeks ago, there was a gentleman driving up Tennyson going well over the speed limit. He slammed into a car that was making a left-hand turn off of Tennyson onto Pacific. I was in my kitchen. I heard the brakes. I heard the smash. I walked into my front room, looked at my daughter. Is that an accident? I don't know. Then before I opened the door, I heard smack, a large smack. The gentleman smashed into the car. The car kept going onto the sidewalk, then ran into the telephone pole that's 2 houses down from me. So the transient, the to and from BART pedestrian that walk that way every day, there's thousands of people that walk up and down each week. Somebody's gonna get killed. So what I'm asking the city, and I don't know if this is the platform or the time to do it, but I'm looking for a stoplight to be placed at that intersection, Pacific Street and Tennyson Road. Just like the same traffic light, the same 3, it doesn't go straight through, so it's a 3, I guess. I don't know what it's called, but anyhow, same as Roos Road. I'm sure familiar with Roos Road. It's another highly trafficked area. So the way that light is set up, I'm asking for it to be set up there. I've spoken to my neighbors that reside on Tennyson right with me, and the people in the housing tract behind us, and we all have the same concern. So I just wanted to bring it to your guys' attention. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And I do see our Public Works Director is online. He has heard you. And you also have our Hayward Police Department here. And the Traffic Division will certainly get a report. And we will certainly evaluate that. And we have your number here, and we will certainly get back to you on that.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
And I do remember you in the elevator.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Okay. Like to close public comments and then move on. Oh, wait, I see a hand. I do see a hand up, and I'd like to call upon Teresa R.
Hi, good evening, council. I will try to keep this brief. So can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So tonight, Hayward Concerned Citizens met with one of the police captains for 30 minutes to discuss his impression of having a new Hayward jail when the new facility is built. And of course, Hayward Concerned Citizens is always wanting to support our wonderful Hayward police. And he gave the impression that having a jail continued within the city limits.
Teresa,
Yeah.
I want to interrupt you here because I believe you're speaking about an agenda item we have, and if you want, it'd be nice for you to bring this up while we talk about the agenda, rather than doing it now.
Okay, all right, I'll reserve my comments for later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Brisaida Ayala Rodriguez.
Hi, good evening, council. Thank you so much for your time. I was wondering if this was a good time to talk about the emails I sent regarding advocating for Palestine.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Yeah, I said, good evening. Thank you for your time. I sent some emails to the city council regarding advocating for Palestine. I was wondering if this was a good time to talk about it.
Oh, yes. Go right ahead. Yes, of course.
Yes. So
I did, yeah. Go ahead.
worries. My emails just talked about, as we all know, the Israeli government is actively committing an act of genocide against Palestinians, with countries such as ours who are actively funding the Israel's mission of ethnic cleansing. CNN already estimates around 10,000 fatalities in Gaza since October 7th, with more than 4 out of 10 killed in Gaza were children. And I'm pretty sure we can all agree these are very inhumane and genocidal acts. Richmond became the first city in the US to actively support Palestinians' cause for freedom, peace, and life, and also denounced Israel's crimes of bombing Palestinian homes, leaving them without water, food, shelter, and other necessities. And I really hope that Richmond's not the last city to do this. I have emailed our senators, our Senator Alex Padilla, as well as our Representative Eric Swalwell, numerous times. And not only are their emails very generic, but there's just no plan or course of action in their response. So my next step of plan was to urge you guys to do something. And I know the email that I received was that it was not in our jurisdiction, but our country sends $3.3 billion a year to fund ethnic cleansing, and this money comes directly from, tax-paying Americans. And according to the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights map in Hayward, $1 million from the Israeli weapons could instead be used to help us, 215 households with public housing for a year, 5,000 households with solar electricity produced for a year, and just other things that can be, that money can be better used. And I really do agree that with myself and many other people that Hayward needs to have a voice in this matter. We can no longer stand silent because of a long-standing policy during these times. And so I'm urging Hayward to follow suit and declare support for Palestinians' right to freedom. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, and I apologize. I didn't hear what the topic was, but yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you. I'd like to move on. I'd like to close public comments and then move on to city manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I don't know if the pictures are available to put up on the screen. I don't know. I guess not. Okay. So we will, I will share the information and hopefully I will send the pictures to council and we can share them later. But for those council members who have long listened to people complain about repaving city streets, West Winton between Southland Drive and Santa Clara Street repaving has been completed. The delay of the payment improvement to this segment was due to the need to coordinate with and obtain permit from Caltrans for the closure of the on and off ramps overnight for several nights. The work was performed without major impact to traffic on West Winton or 880. With the completion of this segment, the entire length of Winton Avenue is now considered in good condition. So I encourage you to go check it out and see the new paving. So thank you to Public Works staff for completing that.
Just be sure you follow the speed limits going back and forth on West Winton. Okay, thank you for that. Next is moving on to our action items, and we have our consent calendar, and I will entertain a motion.
I have a question about number 10 before we move it.
Okay.
And then I'm happy to move all the items.
Okay. Councilmember Syra.
Thank you. This is for the Public Works Director. I watched the Council Infrastructure Committee about the recommended alignment for the East Bay Greenway multimodal project. I'm really excited about it. I think on, what was it? Page 4 out of 6, I'll just read it out so folks don't have to flip to it. Part of this project is addressing pedestrian high injury network in Hayward, which is along Mission Boulevard. And so this project also includes evaluation and design of pedestrian scale improvements. I was just curious what the timeline for those improvements would be. This project only talks about evaluation and design. So I'm curious, when will council see some of those designs and what's the timeline for implementing them? Because we have a lot of development happening along Mission, and I think it's important that we prioritize pedestrian friendly development there as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Syra. We have representatives from ACTC here. Mr. Gary Housing is here, and he would be able to answer the question better. Gary, are you available?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, council members. Gary Heising with Alameda CTC. So we plan to integrate pedestrian scale improvements on Mission Boulevard, even though the path for the planned bike route will be off of Mission Boulevard, but we plan to do it at the same time as we're starting on the design process and working with City of Hayward staff, Alex and his staff. We plan to do it at the same time.
That's fantastic to hear. Thank you. And I just wanted to thank the folks on the infrastructure committee for moving this project forward. I didn't want this to just fly by without folks acknowledging that this is a significant step forward in improving our bike safety, our pedestrian safety, and connecting us with other cities in the region. So thank you for your work on this. And Alex, thank you for including Bike East Bay in the staff report and being willing to consult them. And thank you to the folks on Bike Hayward that called into that meeting as well to advocate for certain changes too. And with that, I'm happy to move the items, Mayor.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilmember Syrup, seconded by Councilmember Goldstein. And I don't see any public comment either online or in the audience. Madam City Clerk, if you can take the roll.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Bonilla Jr.
Aye.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Aye.
Councilmember Roach. Aye. Councilmember Syrup.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño. Mayor Salinas.
Yes, so
Thank
it unanimously passes. Thank you. Next, we move on to our work session. And our work session is item number 11. It's the Hayward Police Department Jail Assessment, Review of Findings and Recommendations from the Hayward Police Department Jail Assessment Report. And we will have our Acting Chief of Police, Brian Matthews, kick this off. And the floor is yours, sir.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. We're here to talk about the comprehensive assessment that was done regarding our Hayward Police Department jail operations. And so I'll be moving through this fairly quickly, and that way we can get to discussion. So tonight we're going to talk just about an overview of the jail itself very briefly. We'll talk about the Jensen Hughes jail assessment, and then we'll cover findings, recommendations, and other actions that were taken. So a brief overview of Hayward's jail facility. We are a type 1 jail facility with the capacity to house adults for up to 96 hours and juveniles temporarily. We have 19 full-time employees currently. That includes 4 jail supervisors and 15 CSOs. We do have 5 CSO special assignment positions, including in the District Command Unit, Traffic Bureau, and Personnel and Training. We do run a 24-hour operation there. There are 4 jail teams that each work a 12-hour shift. We do meet California standards and training for Corrections Academy. They attend an academy which certifies them to be able to work in the jail independently. And then each CSO and supervisor receives 24 hours of continuous annual training related to jail operations, et cetera. We get inspected twice a year by the Board of State and Community Corrections. We refer to them as a BSCC. And then we also, on an annual basis, get inspected by the Alameda County Public Health Department. So we contracted with Jensen Hughes. Jensen Hughes might sound familiar to you. This is the independent consultant group of subject matter experts that we use to investigate administratively our officer-involved shootings. They also go all over the country and do analyses of organizations and jails. And so we felt that they were a good fit for this project. And so their project team came out and basically assessed for 4 things related to the jail: compliance with policies and procedures for jail operations and state standards, comparing the jail's existence and operations with those of similarly sized cities in California, assessing our budget and operating costs, and then analyzing and assessing the pros and cons of operating a jail here in Hayward. To conduct their assessment, they did a comprehensive review of all department policies, orders, and directives. They looked at deployment data, training information, and staffing. They actually were on site for a number of days. So they came out to the site to visit not only the Hayward jail facility and its operations, but they also went to the city of Fremont, which is a comparable city with respect to size of the department and population. They conducted over 15 interviews with department and city stakeholders, and then they also conducted a post-site visit analysis of what they learned during the site visit. This slide reflects the key findings. There were 13 of them. I'm not going to go through each one of these in detail. This is also reflected in the staff report. I do want to highlight a couple of them. You can see in bold there, number 5. One of the findings was that, based on current operating capacity and current volume, the jail is a lot larger than is needed to handle the number of arrestees that we're handling. And so we recognize that. And I think that's going to play out in future conversations about what a jail facility would look like here in the city of Hayward, particularly as it relates to any future facilities. Number 8, one of the findings was that there was no formal Hayward jail facility physician. We double checked with the BSCC to make sure that we were in compliance on that. What we're required to do with a type 1 facility is to have a policy and a plan for somebody that requires medical attention. So for non-emergency medical attention purposes, we will actually transport, a detainee either to St. Rose Hospital or Eden, which is the closest trauma center. For medical emergencies, we actually call the fire department ambulance service, and they come to the jail to provide treatment and then also transport to the closest trauma center. And then number 11, the current Hayward jail facility workstations are inadequate. There's some design challenges, some space challenges, and we'll talk about that shortly because we are working on that. The report also highlighted 10 recommendations. Again, I won't go through all of these, although I do want to highlight the fact that recommendation number 1, 3, 6, 8, and 9 have already been implemented. I do want to highlight the fact that, our staff was quick to move on these things. One of the things that we did was when we heard the feedback, we responded to it in real time and started working on some of these things rather than waiting for this presentation. And I do want to give kudos to Captain Will Deplich and Lieutenant Garrett Wagner, who are both here tonight. They have taken over, the supervision and management of the jail and have done a lot of work and put a lot of time and energy and effort into making it better and making significant improvements. And so a lot of the work that's being done in relation to these recommendations is their work. And so I just want to highlight that publicly and say thank you. I also want to highlight item number 10. The report leaves kind of the future direction of jail operations here in the city of Hayward to the city. And so as we indicated in the staff report, this is an item that we anticipate being discussed tonight by you all. But we did recommend maintaining a type 1 facility. To simplify it, the only difference between a type 1 facility and a temporary holding facility is the length of time a detainee can be held. And there's an investigative benefit to that in certain cases that I'm happy to talk about, and the amount of training for jail staff. So a temporary holding facility only requires that jail staff be trained for 4 hours every year. A type 1 facility requires 24 hours of training. So you do have a better trained staff with a type 1 facility. So from a cost perspective, there really is no significant difference there. And so we're happy to have that conversation here tonight. Some of the other actions that we've taken, we've improved our capacity to collect statistics. And that's going to be kind of in line with conversations that we're having in other places in the city about data and the effective use of that. We're continually updating policies and procedures, and that's consistent with our CALIA accreditation as well. We confirmed again with the BSCC that we are in compliance with Title 15 regarding the responsible physician. We do have a plan and a policy for providing medical treatment to detainees. We've updated our website and we'll continue to monitor that and take suggestions on that. We did add a workstation already. We're developing a redesign plan. And then again, we confirmed that we have not had any legal claims due to the jail facility. And that concludes our presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. And then again, we have Captain Deplich and Lieutenant Garrett Wagner who can also answer questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me go back to my screen here. Okay, it's a work session, so I want to open up to public comment first. And public comment is Teresa R.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So hopefully now I've got it right when to speak regarding this issue. So anyway, thank you everyone for going over this issue. Again, I'm a member of Hayward Concerned Citizens, and we are interested in maintaining a level 1 jail, just like that has been maintained in the city of Hayward in the past. Our main concern is we don't want on the street officers to have to take individuals to a level 1 jail outside of the city of Hayward, and then they're not available on our streets when we're so shorthanded for police officers as it is. So I thank you for your time, and know that we do support our Hayward police. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to move on to TJ from Hayward Concerned Citizen.
Hi, good evening. I'm TJ with Hayward Concerned Citizens. And I also kind of reiterating some of what Teresa said, my colleague, but I wanted to lend my full support to keeping HPD's jail opened and operating in our city going forward. It does allow the city to retain control of its services and prevents Hayward from having to rely on the county for its essential services. Not being able to book an arrestee at our local jail could either mean more offenders back on the street or pulling officers from our jurisdiction 1 to 3 hours at a time to transfer that individual to Santa Rita. There are proponents of eliminating the jail who feel that social programs aimed at prevention and reform are the way to go, but those reforms don't come overnight. There needs to be immediate accountability for criminal acts. The jail provides essential services and is necessary in our community. That is the reality, and the jail needs to be considered when plans are being solidified for construction of the new police building. And just a footnote on the report, it was very good. I do have some transparency questions. One is I don't recall seeing the study as a consent item on any agenda, and I'm wondering what was the cost attached and who paid for it, what bucket that came out of. And also about the stakeholders, I didn't see demographics or stats for those who were consulted that weren't HPD or city personnel. So I wonder if you could speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you. And next I have Susie's iPad.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Luther with Hayward Concerned Citizens, and I am also in support of the HPD retaining their jail facility at the new safety center that the city is planning on building. And I also ditto TJ's questions about transparency and stakeholders. I'm just wondering how they were assessed. How were the stakeholders assessed? And I feel like I'm a stakeholder and our group is a stakeholder, and I'm just wondering why we were not approached in this report. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I don't see any other public comment here or online. So I'd like to next come back up here to council. And, before I open up the questions, I just wanted to say thank you to the city manager for keeping this the only item on the agenda tonight. And I know there's going to be, we should have a pretty good discussion. Also, I wanted to thank the acting chief. Although you were over the 5-slide limit, you kept the reporting within a timely fashion. So I wanted to thank you for that. Appreciate that. Also, lastly, I just wanted to ask my colleagues up here on the council if, as we're all going to be asking questions, and if we can just be succinct, be very clear, and I'm going to be very judicious on the second, third, fourth bites of the apple tonight. And so I just want us to just really be clear and succinct and right to the point as we proceed to with this evening. So with that said, Councilmember Cermeño.
Questions and comments, correct? All right, so I have a couple of questions and then a couple of comments. My first question is, in our East Bay, there are only 2 jails?
No, there are, well, there's one county jail facility.
Okay, so
that-
Fremont, Hayward, and a county.
Fremont, Hayward, I don't know, San Leandro, I think, got rid of theirs. Berkeley has one. I think the city of Oakland has one. So
Okay.
there are several in the East Bay
Right.
and Alameda County anyway.
So it would be about 5 jails. Okay, very good, thanks. One of the, after the recommendations in the staff report, it says, economic, no, I was looking at it. The various recommendations, what would the cost be of realizing all those recommendations? Is there, do we have an idea? And the recommendations are very good. There are actually, what, 10 different recommendations. Have we done a study? Did you do a study as to what the cost of carrying those out would be?
We have not done a cost analysis. A lot of these
Okay.
are procedural, so they don't cost anything other than staff time.
All right.
But, you know, for example, like the workplace, you know, redesign, I mean, there's going to be a construction cost associated with any changes there and maybe some equipment, but we have not included that as part of this. We haven't done that yet.
All right, okay, good. So I'm gonna get the opinion that you favor type 1 jail. Am I correct in my?
That's the recommendation. And the reason for that is the cost difference is minimal. We are primarily running it as a temporary holding facility now, and our intention is to continue doing that. So
Okay.
to the extent that we can hold people no longer than 24 hours, we're going to continue to do that.
Right.
There are circumstances and very significant cases, particularly cases where you have co-defendants, et cetera, and they need to be interviewed and there's evidence processing that happens. It's helpful for us to be able to retain control of those individuals here
Mhm.
locally, rather than have to transport them out to the county jail and then try to coordinate efforts to be able to interview, et cetera, collect evidence, those things. So maintaining the type 1 status will allow us to do that here, which will not only prevent us from taking people to the county, because there's a cost associated there for each individual that gets booked out there, but it'll also make it, you know, it will create efficiency from a time perspective for our investigative staff.
Very good. So I know we're missing officers. Are any of the positions that we're missing jailers? Or are we just?
I think
missing-
we're down 2 CSO positions right now, which we're actively recruiting for.
So at the moment, there are 19, so there should be 21.
Yes.
Okay, and they are fully uniformed, fully full-time officers, but special needs for the jail.
Their primary assignment is to the jail. Again, there are some special assignments. They do wear uniforms that are similar but different, and they don't carry firearms. They don't carry a lot of the equipment that you would see a police officer carry.
Okay. And then I do read that the jail is longer than what is needed. So what are we thinking about? Are we thinking of a smaller jail in the future, or are we thinking of a same size jail for the future?
So in the conversations that we've had internally, I think, you know, a smaller jail in the future makes sense. And I think that we would, you know, use data to make a determination about the appropriate size. So taking a look at, you know, the volume of people that are processed there, how long people are being held there, those types of things can be beneficial when you're trying to figure out how big of a facility you need. But I would say that it's pretty clear, just in the conversations that I've had with the consultants, that the facility that we currently have is bigger.
Capacity is 36 beds, so 36 prisoners or 36.
36 beds. I think we can hold up to 80 80 individuals. There's some larger holding areas where multiple people can fit. So
that's a large one then. Okay, those are my questions. And as far as the recommendations, I like those. As far as what the consultant did, those are excellent. It gives us good ideas as to what to build if and when we go to a new facility. So very important. And I imagine that the jail has gender equity to a degree, showers, bathrooms, etc.
correct.
Okay.
We don't house, male detainees with female detainees or those that identify as such.
All right, that's important. So I do like the recommendations that are made. And then also I'm in favor of the type 1 jail. So, and thank you for the report.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here.
Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it was really interesting for me to learn more about the jail. So thank you for the report and the work that was put in to do some comparison with, like I think you said Fremont, and then the Jensen spent time at the jail to see how it acts, how everybody interacts with it. So I just had some questions about, some of the committee questions were about making sure we have a facility here so we're not transporting people. But and I wanted to ask again, so how long in a type 1 jail, how long can you hold someone?
Up to 96 hours.
And then I guess what I'm wondering is how often are people held here but then transferred anyway?
That's a good question. So the temporary holding facility, the way that we operate it, I think a majority of the folks nowadays, I think are cited and released within 24 hours. So they're not transferred to any other holding facility. They're processed, photographed, fingerprinted. Some people have to be kept, like in a case where somebody's under the influence or, not sober, they have to be kept until they are. But usually that's before, so I don't know. I don't have data about how many people we transport unless you have that with you. Yeah, only felonies, and those folks would be transferred to the county eventually.
I see. So all of these people then, I mean, otherwise you would have to fingerprint them and then immediately transfer them to another facility and then go there to interview them and all that.
Correct. If we got rid of the jail altogether or downgraded, there would be cases where we would have to transport out to Santa Rita jail, and depending on the time of day, that could have a significant impact on our ability to staff the street.
Okay, and how often is the jail full right now?
I don't recall a time that it's been full in my 25 years here,
Okay.
to be honest.
Okay, so that's why the potential recommendation to downsize if we were to
Correct.
do this. Okay. Okay, I think, let's see. Thank you. My colleague asked my other questions that I had. Do we take, I don't know what we call them, inmates are from other jurisdictions, for the question about other local jails?
We do. It's on a case-by-case basis, and I think there is a fee that they have to pay. Most consistently, it's probably, the Hayward CHP office. They'll bring somebody in for the booking process, and then, a lot of times those are DUI arrests. So we have an toxalyzer machine that they'll use to collect a breath sample. And then typically those folks are cited out, once they sober up. So it's primarily CHP, but Cal State East Bay also has the ability to book, although it's very, very rare.
Okay. And then just going back to, the type of jail. So it's a type 1, but there's a type 1 supposed to have a physician on staff, but the plan and the arrangement to use fire in St. Rose is adequate to continue to label it a type 1. Is that right?
It is, according to the BSCC, who does our biannual evaluations. They said that meets the state standard.
Okay, so even without the current recommendations, you can continue to operate this as a type 1, the way things are right now.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you very much for this report. I'm Acting Chief Matthews. Just a couple of kind of questions sort of along the same line as Councilmember Roche. So the main difference in these two facilities is a type 1, you can hold someone up to 96 hours. The other holding facility rather is a 24-hour maximum. So just to sort of get a level of, I guess, magnitude, how many people, I guess, are there between that 24 and 96 hour range? Because that would be really the delta that we're talking about, is we wouldn't be able to hold them 96 hours and therefore they would need to go to the county jail.
Right.
So how many on a weekly basis are we talking about? Is that like a handful or less?
I would say one or two. A lot of times that comes into play when you make a felony arrest, you know, on a Friday, and court's not until Monday. So they have to be held over the weekend unless they post bail. So, and Lieutenant Wagner said, you know, maybe one or two a week.
Got it. And just for my own understanding, what are the minimum qualifications for who could transport somebody to the county jail? Does it have to be a cop, or could it be a CSO, or
So
could it be someone?
it can be a combination of things. It can be a police officer. It can be two CSOs. So because they are not armed, we have to send two, which can impact the staffing in the jail itself. And then you could do a combination of sending a CSO to drive, you know, a transport van with a police officer following behind. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. But they all have an impact, you know, on service.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just trying to sort of understand what that magnitude of impact would be. Because, you know, if it's one or two a week, and it looks like, according to this report, some of our CSOs have extra capacity already because maybe they're not working at the full capacity, it would make sense logically to say, then put two of them in a car and have them go and transport, and then we cut the expense, albeit minimal. But I don't know what minimal is. Is that like, you know, $1 million? Is it $500,000? You know, when we talk about the difference in expenses between the two facilities, but I'm just still trying to kind of think through, you know, I get a type 1 and why it does make sense, but I guess I'm also thinking, what is the real impact if we don't go type 1? The impact is we're taking an extra trip to Dublin once a week, or maybe twice a week, with an inmate that needs to go there.
That, you want to share that? Sorry, I'm going to have Lieutenant Wag. Well, before he gets up there and talks about that piece of it, you know, without providing a dollar amount, really the difference in cost is the 24 hours of training on an annual basis versus the 4 hours of training that they would get if it was a temporary holding facility. And I will always advocate for more training for staff. I think if you have a better trained staff, you have better work product, you know, better performance, et cetera. So from a cost standpoint, that's really the difference there. But I'll let Lieutenant Wagner address the question about, you know, transport.
Good evening, Council. So the major difference between the two is it is 24 hours. However, with staffing, we don't know when that 24-hour period would end, so to speak. So typically the way a temporary holding facility works is when somebody is transported in, and after they're processed, they're immediately taken to Santa Rita Jail. So Fremont currently runs a temporary holding facility. When people come in, the CSOs close the jail and they transport to Santa Rita. The reason behind that is because that person stays there and they decide, hey, we're going to transport it at a later time, and then the jail becomes busy, and then they're up against that clock and they have to get that person out of there within 24 hours. So that's the reason behind it. So we average currently 5 arrests a day coming into the jail. So that would be 5 possibly separate transports to Santa Rita Jail.
Got it. But the historical trend might say it's more closer to 1.
The 1 is a felony. So so we have several misdemeanors and felonies that come into the jail. The felonies are the ones that would stay longer than 24 hours. So we transport those to Santa Rita Jail, and we have a process in doing that. The misdemeanors, we would have to transport right away, having the temporary holding facility.
Got it. So what would you say are the biggest pros from your opinion, and then maybe some of the biggest cons, just 3 in each area, for keeping a type 1 facility?
So the type 1 facility, similar to what the chief was talking about, the ability to hold people. If we did have a major crime, it's a very evolving situation, especially if let's say it was a homicide and the suspect was on scene. This is going to be a major investigation where we're calling people in. The 24-hour clock to interview that person is going to be very tight, especially depending on the time of day. If it happens in the middle of the night, it's going to take several hours for the investigators to get here and start their investigation. That 24-hour period probably wouldn't happen. We would be forced then to transport the suspect to Santa Rita jail. They would have to go through the processing there, and then it's a difficult ordeal to have the investigators then be able to interview that person. So that would be the major con of not having the type 1. The other one, like the chief was saying, is the training. Training is very important to these people. The difference between a type 1 facility and a temporary holding facility is that a type 1 facility, you must go to an academy. So each one of our staff members goes to an academy. It's a 6-week corrections academy where they learn the basic skills to be a corrections officer. If you have a type 1 facility, you do not have to go to an academy. And then annually, you have to complete 24 hours of ongoing training in a type 1 facility versus only 4 hours in a temporary holding facility. You know, our goal is to have the highest trained staff, and holding us to that 24-hour, I think, is important as well.
Got it. Thank you. And then I guess I'm just questioning, and I know it's probably out of scope for this discussion because it's about the jail facility, but if we're down, I think we said we're recruiting 2 CSOs right now. Why are we recruiting those if we have officers, according to this report, or at least CSOs that have a significant amount of uncommitted time that could be used to complete other tasks?
So like the chief said, in total, we have 24 positions. 5 of those are outside of the jail and 19 of those are within the jail. Currently, I have a couple of people that are off on administrative leave, which reduces our staffing in the jail. And then we have right now 3 people that are what we call are in jail training. So even though they're working in the jail, they're not considered a body in the jail, meaning that they have a training officer that they're assigned with. They go through a 14-week period. Once they're completed with the 14-week period, then we cut them off to what we call a solo CSO, where they're assigned a team and then they count as a member in the jail. So even though it may seem that our numbers are high, we have 2 people in special assignments, and then the remaining people that we have are in the jail, but each team only has about 3 people.
And if I could just add to that, there are administrative duties that the CSOs are performing, related to the registration of sex registrants. They're doing online and telephone reports. They're categorizing our RIPA data. That's the data that's collected under the Racial Identity and Profiling Act. And then we are engaged in conversations, about expanding their ability to work in the field. I know that we're going to be coming back to council on the 5th of December to talk about some of the policy innovation work. One of those policy solutions that we piloted were CSOs in the field. We're looking to make that a permanent program at some point. But again, there are training and equipment needs there, and then also the potential for some meet and confer stuff as it relates to the union. So we're not at a point to be able to present that yet, but that is in the works. That's a conversation that we're having internally about using existing staff in other areas when they have downtime.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. And that's something that my council colleagues have talked a little bit about is, what more work can CSOs do that perhaps armed officers are doing today so that they can focus on other things. And my last question is this do not admit list. I guess, how do you get on that and off of that?
I'll let Lieutenant Wagner take that one.
So that was something I inherited. So since that, what we've done is we've requested that everybody on that list be looked at. And so there must be a reason that they're put on the list. So there has to be some type of report that would articulate why they're on the list, some kind of behavior that they exhibited while they were at our facility. And then annually, we're going to relook at that. So we're going to look to see if this behavior has continued with officers out in the field. And if it has, then they will continue to be on the list. If that behavior seems to have persist and it's no longer happening, then we'll remove them from that list.
And it's primarily assaultive behavior towards staff. The other consideration is somebody that has a significant medical issue. Santa Rita Jail does have medical staff on site, so if it looks like it's going to be somebody that we're either going to have an officer sit at the hospital for hours and hours and hours while this person gets cleared. Those are other things too. If somebody has a significant medical condition, they may be a direct. So if you're not on the do not admit list, that means that you are transported directly to Santa Rita for one of those two reasons.
Do surrounding jurisdictions have something similar?
Yes, they do.
Got it. All right. Those are all of my questions. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Syra.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Acting Chief Matthews, for the report. And thank you, Lieutenant. Is it Lieutenant Wagner or Captain Wagner?
Lieutenant Wagner.
Thank you. Thank you for the additional information. I'm curious, so how small of a downsize are you thinking percentage-wise for the new jail?
Don't have an answer to that yet. I think that's something that we're going to take a look at, a comprehensive look at our data and try to identify need. I can tell you that an 80 person capacity facility, like I said, I've never seen it to capacity. And I think there's, some repurposing, not only of physical space, but again, looking at the staffing, right, in a smaller facility, you may not need as many people. We can repurpose folks to do other things. So we don't have a percentage to share at this point, but I would imagine that it would be fairly significant.
Just out of
And
curiosity,
can
what
I
is the
just-
fullest you've?
Oh, I
sorry,
was
go
just
ahead.
going to
Steve.
add that I think one of the things that came to light during the assessment was the need to collect data on sort of statistics with the jail. So I think that's what staff is doing right now. And I think that will help inform what will be needed. And we'll work closely with the architects as we're looking at those plans.
Thank you. And I look forward to seeing a report on the data when it's available. My follow-up, but I can also wait for the information on this too, is, how many of the currently 15 CSO jailers would be freed up with this smaller jail? But I'll wait to see, what we're anticipating before asking for an answer to that question. For the sake of clarification, is a temporary holding facility also known as a type 2 jail? Because that was a term that was thrown around before.
No, and that's probably my error, a lack of understanding. I think it goes up. So temporary holding facility is the lowest, then you have type 1, type 2, all the way up to type 4. And so it actually goes up and not down. So if that's come up in conversation before, that's probably my bad.
That's all right. Because I remember we had a conversation about the jail and you had mentioned type 2 being less than type 1. And I was a little concerned that we were going in the opposite direction. Is type 4 what would be considered a prison or
Yes,
supermax?
that would be a state prison. Yes.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. Okay, I think a lot of my questions were connected to, the downsizing of the jail. Overall, I understand the desire to want to remain a type 1. I'm curious for the Corrections Academy, how long is a Corrections Academy course? Or like the whole length of the Corrections Academy?
I believe it's a 6-week academy.
And do applicants do that prior to applying to the police department, or they apply first and then they go through that academy?
So it's much like being hired as a police officer. Most of them are hired and then sent to the academy. We do on occasion get laterals. So somebody who has already been to the academy and is a correctional officer in another jurisdiction and wants to come to Hayward, we've had that happen in the past too. So those are kind of the two ways that they do it. Most folks get hired and then sent by the department to the academy.
Understood. And for the lateral transfers, they would still be subject to that 24 hours of annual training. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. And, I understand the desire to want to have more trained folks running the jail. I want to commend the jail staff for having no legal claims throughout its history. I think that is a significant data point. Just want to emphasize the conversation around CSOs. I also support, and I know we're going to talk about this in the future, having CSOs provide more services in the field. I am curious about having certain CSOs focus on the jail specifically. So, part of the report said, some CSOs are able to do some tasks and then have to run back to the jail. I'm wondering how we can specialize so that there are more CSOs allocated towards specialized work instead of having to go back and forth. Do you have some thoughts you could share on that?
Yeah, again, they're very preliminary, but there's conversations about creating special assignments for the field. I think the conversations we had with with the consultant involved, if the jail got busy, and we needed to add staffing to be able to handle capacity, then you could pull somebody in from a special assignment, whether that's from district command or somewhere else, and temporarily plug them into the jail until, the capacity settles, and then they can go back out into the field. Those are kind of some of the concepts that we're talking through. In a perfect world as a chief, I would love to have the capacity to have a CSO assigned to, each patrol team, but, we're not at that place just yet. But these are conversations that are happening internally.
Great, thank you. And then just for my own curiosity, what is the fullest you have seen the jail?
It's a great question. I got to go back through 25 years now and try to remember. Yeah, I would say on a weekend, on a busy weekend, you're looking at 25, maybe 30 folks there for any period of time.
Great, that's helpful. Thank you. Those are all my questions, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to HPD for the presentation. Wanted to know a little bit more about the 5 or so that get arrested. What are some of the common offenses that you see?
They range from, your what we would consider a, kind of a low level misdemeanor, in certain cases, DUI offense. There's both misdemeanor and felony domestic violence offenses. We do get people who engage in acts of violence. There's a whole host of misdemeanors, including battery and some of those things, where somebody could potentially be brought to the jail and booked. Narcotics related offenses, depending on the actual violation. A lot of that stuff now, because it's a misdemeanor, and if somebody has identification, a lot of those folks are being cited and released in the field. So, those are kind of typically the things that we will see come through.
Thank you for that. And do you know if the CSOs also work with the HART or HMET team or connect with wraparound services for folks who are experiencing some of these issues?
So the CSO that's assigned to district command, yes, they're, he's in the field with district command all the time, works closely with the HART, the HMET mobile evaluation team, which is the CIT trained officer and the clinician. So in that capacity, yes.
Okay. Yep. I'm just curious because I have been seeing news stories of folks getting arrested just so they can have access to food and medical attention, and wanted to see if that was happening and if we had resources such as the CSOs to kind of connect them to those wraparound services, and just wanted to see if that was happening because I could see that actually as an asset for our community.
Absolutely. And that's a point well taken for sure. That's something that we can take a look at too in terms of expanded capacity. And maybe even, I know that the state requires 24 hours of training. That's the minimum. I think there's opportunities to bring additional training to the CSO staff in addition to that. And your suggestion to, connect them, to mental health response, makes a lot of sense. And maybe that's something that we can look at this next calendar year.
Thank you. And I've been approached by many people about downtown. And I know that we had the DHIA, that Downtown Hayward Improvement Association, who was supporting by providing security to the downtown. I know that's been in transition multiple times, and wanted to know with the CSOs, is there a possibility to see those positions converted to downtown support or any of our other major corridors that are experiencing issues?
Sure. I think there's always a possibility. And I think that's a conversation we're willing to have and try to talk through what that would look like. I think that's a great suggestion. The field CSOs, at least in the pilot program, have been citywide, and they've been able to not only respond to certain calls for service, but they've been able to go address some of the issues that we've experienced in certain areas, especially related to parking and abandoned vehicles and some of the things that have a tendency to be pain points for community members. And so I think there could be, potential down the road focus on the downtown area. That's something that we're happy to have conversation about.
Okay. Well, those are all my questions and comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Yeah. Thank you, Acting Chief Matthews. You've said a couple of times that your vision for Hayward Police Department is to be the crown jewel of law enforcement in the Bay Area. It's a very admirable vision, by the way. And, I've had the pleasure of visiting and knowing and getting to know several of the departments in the area. And so that's a level of competition you're talking about that's quite high. And but what I like about this report is the fact that you're already tackling 8 of the 13, actually implementing 8 of the 13 recommendations that are in there. That's truly admirable, and I think really does give you bragging rights towards that crown jewel appellation. So thank you for having the vision, and thank you for taking it seriously and implementing those changes. It's wonderful to see that. A couple of questions I had though, relative to the jail size and how you're currently using it. And I don't know if I need to direct this to Lieutenant Wagner, but the question is, there have been some changes in which courts are currently used, and therefore the travel time to court, right? So the Amador courthouse is no longer being used. Is that correct? It's only family court there now?
Correct. It's not
Okay.
being used for criminal court. Criminal court is in downtown Oakland or out at the county facility next to Santa Rita Jail in Dublin.
Gotcha. So the transport process when you have to take someone is either going to be to Oakland or it's going to be to Dublin, correct?
Correct. And if people are being transported to court, it's going to be right in the middle of commute time.
Right. And when you make those transport, do your CSOs or officers, whoever's doing the transport, do they stay until the end of the hearing, or do they drop the person, come back to Hayward, wait until they're told to pick that person up again? How does that work?
So typically, once somebody is transferred to court, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lieutenant Wagner, they don't remain on site. A court appearance can last 15 minutes or it can last hours or even a day. A lot of times, once they're transferred to court, they're transferred to the custody of the sheriff. And then once they're done with court, they remain in the custody of the sheriff. That's pretty common. It's not very common for us to bring people back to the city once they've had a court appearance.
Okay, so even if they're given a 2 or 3 day sentence, nothing that would normally warrant time in the county jail, but because they're there, they're going to stay there in the county jail. Is that right?
Correct. We don't ever really house anybody post sentence. That's all handled by the county.
Okay, great. So then what that goes to then really is just the length of time that you can hold someone for their court appearance, and 96 hours is what you're asking for, so to maintain as a type 1 jail. But in terms of the actual transportation, once you're basically done with that person, taking them to jail or releasing them, it's not going to take any more time in terms of transportation, only the time that it takes to actually get them where they're going. But that person doing transport would be returning to their duty station after they drop that person off. Is that, I'm understanding that correctly? Yeah.
Correct. And I know that we're talking about the 96-hour time frame. That's the max, and I can't. Most folks are out of there again within 24 hours. Anyway,
I'm sure there's lots of reasons why you want to take them right away as soon as you're able, and you guys got better things to do than babysit someone who's showing their bad behavior that day. So I respect that. That's okay. All right, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My comment, I really just, it's more of a comment. It's not really a question. And I just really wanted to just make this observation is I'm just glad that you're prioritizing data. And I know that, our heads have been in data the last few days. And, but I just really wanted to thank you for that and really passing on that priority to your command staff. I think a lot of the questions that we've been asking up here, and just to, refer to Councilmember Syrup, his inquiries were, really focused around data, collecting good quality data so that we can determine, the size, the type, and the relevancy, and I think we're committed to a size and to something, but I think the more data that we have that informs what we can do, I think we'll get us there. And that was a major piece of both the staff report and the report. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that. And it is important. And I know that it's something that we've been trying to do up here as much as we can. And we do it. I mean, not to understate it, but we do use data as much as we can to inform what we do up here. And I'm just glad that we're now, I'm glad that we're really prioritizing the use of data, the collection of data to determine some of these really important parts of our police facilities. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. Those are my comments for this particular report. City Manager, I don't know if you have any further.
No, I just want to thank the police department leadership team for embarking on this evaluation. I know sometimes it is challenging to look critically at ourselves, but I think it's really important for us to continue to do that, to find ways that we can improve. So I just want to acknowledge all of them and thank them for the work on this and for already getting started on implementation of the recommendations.
Perfect. Thank you. Acting Chief Matthews, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And please tell the men and women of the police department to be safe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so we will move on to our next item is the informational item 12. And I don't think there is a staff report here, but I don't think there's going to be any report on this. I think
No, informational items, just to remind council, are simply there. If you would like us to schedule a presentation in the future, we would bring it back at another meeting, but it is simply there informationally only. So.
Thank you. And I believe Mayor Pro Tem Andrews had a question.
Yes, mainly about the downtown parking program, and it says postpone transportation and Chamber of Commerce. They're gonna do something on that?
We'll have to look into that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was curious what they're gonna do.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look at that.
Yep. Okay. And then I just want to give kudos for the mural art for underpasses. Good job. Also, seeing streetlights along Tennyson. Hopefully Dickens is on there. Dickens and Tennyson, and then also want to express support of bridge structure maintenance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to council reports and announcements. Are there any council reports or announcements? Councilmember Goldstein.
Just a reminder that the Community Services Commission will be meeting tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Syrup, yeah.
As usual, report dead birds, mosquitoes.org, West Nile virus. We can stop it, but you got to report the dead birds at mosquitoes.org. And then I just wanted to say thank you to both our fire department and our police department. Last night, I heard a loud sound outside my door. A car had crashed into a fire hydrant and sent water 30 feet into the air. It kind of tapped the back of a liquor store and knocked all their booze off the shelf, unfortunately. And the dispatch picked up within, I think, under 20 seconds. And I think there were officers in our fire department and ambulance on the scene within under 5 minutes, responding to the scene and shutting off the water valve. So I just was really impressed with our response time. And I'm hopeful that, everybody who's able to call our emergency services gets a similar response. So I just want to say thank you for their quick response.
Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief, but I do have quite a few comments, but I'll be brief. I know I ranted last month about PFAS, and I wanted to give an update because I actually have good news. So even though the legislation was vetoed, the EPA adopted a strategic roadmap to deal with PFAS in an even grander scale So they're actually going to have more requirements with this roadmap than the legislation. So wanted to give a kudos. I learned that from East Bay Discharges Authority, and that was through the advocacy of California Association of Sanitation Agencies. So I wanted to say thank you. Also wanted to remind folks that the gift card program will be starting up again, starting November 20th. There will be 120 participating businesses, and you can give a bonus card to a friend, purchase $50 and you receive 25, 75, you receive 40, and 100, you receive another 100. So that's very exciting. Also wanted to give kudos to staff regarding water quality improvement grants. They are going to be obtaining grants to add more nature-based solutions at our wastewater treatment facility that will help with flood protection, wet weather storage, and nutrient removal, as well as habitat enhancement. So good job. Also wanted to remind everyone that we're gonna have Light Up the Season December 2nd. So I'm sure we're gonna announce that closer to the time. Just wanted to put that out there. Also want to give kudos, as the stack mentioned, Hayward's People's Budget. Want to give kudos to Councilmember Syrup on that. And there's also a link to the Hayward Tree Preservation Ordinance. If you want to give input, there's a link on the survey if you sign up for the stack. And last thing I wanted to mention is thank you to Burbank Elementary for celebrating Ruby Bridges Day. I'm sure the mayor is probably going to talk more about that. So it was nice to see all the parents and students out there celebrating Ruby Bridges, which help desegregate our schools. And Mr. Education City will probably talk more about that. So I'll let him take that over. Thank you.
Well, since you brought it up, I'll talk about it. Yeah, no, it was good to see. There was, I don't know how many kids and families were out in front of City Hall today, but they all had their purple T-shirts on, and it was quite nice to see just the organization and just how all the parents were able to organize, and the teachers, of course, so we're able to organize the students around a very important historical event. Ruby Bridges, of course, is the young girl that, as a result of the Brown decision, was the one that this first grader, or I think she was a kindergartner, with two federal officers confronting Governor Wallace at the doorsteps of a school of all places, and it just shows you the partnership between when the Supreme Court works for families and does what it is supposed to do, there's power in that. And I think today was clearly a wonderful example of the power of kids marching to Burbank Elementary School. And there were other schools in Hayward that were marching, and I think Schaefer Park and Fairview and so forth. So it's good to see the legacy of Ruby Bridges continue. I also wanted to thank the Hayward Police Department for providing all of the escort services for the kids from City Hall to Burbank. And I know they were over at Schaefer Park and some of the other school sites. So please tell your colleagues thank you for that. They were really out there in force to make sure it was safe, and they had a very easy walk right up B Street. Also, lastly, I just wanted to thank my colleagues, those of you who had time to come to the Alameda County Mayor's Conference last Wednesday. It was Hayward's opportunity to host all 14 mayors and city council members and city managers of Alameda County. And it was we had it up at Cal State East Bay, and of course President Sandin hosted us. And then we had a wonderful panel on talking about the intersection really of colleges and universities and school districts and local municipal governments, and how university presidents and college presidents and school superintendents can work with mayors and council members and city managers to support each other's mission around development and housing and economic development and other key policy areas that we've been addressing up here. So it was a great event, and I thought it was a great opportunity to really put forward the city to the Bay Area. With that said, moving on to council referrals. There are no council referrals. So the next council meeting on November 21st and the 28th are canceled, and the next meeting will be on December 5th. And so I wanted to, on behalf of the city council and the city of Hayward, wish everyone a good holiday. And hopefully it is peaceful and fun. And also to our firefighters and our police officers that, and even I know we also have other city staff that are always on post, even when we are on vacation. Thank you, and thank you, and thank your families for having the patience to have you stay a post. Happy holidays, and I'll see you everybody on December 5th. And with that, meeting adjourned.